So here's the total up front, $296, or for my friends watching at home, 528 New Zealand dollars, give or take fluctuating exchange rates, and this was generated from nearly 15,000 total downloads of the game. I wanted to cut the BS and get straight to the total so we can start analyzing the analytics, where the money came from, how it performed, the ratings, reviews, and how it's been doing so far. So Foot Joust is an endless runner for mobile. I worked on it for nearly 5 years off and on solo in my spare time while working a full-time job and in between other projects. It released on the 20th of December 2024 and it is now January 20th, a month later, where sales and downloads are probably going to start declining soon. The game features 2 monetization models, ads every certain amount of deaths, and a single in-app purchase that removes the ads and gives extra benefits for $3.99 US. So let's start with the Google Play Store so we can get it out of the way because there isn't very much going on here. So Google Play is pretty underwhelming so far and has about 138 downloads. The game had pre-registrations available a couple weeks before launch and reached about 31 signups. The good thing about that is that it automatically downloads to everyone's phone and counts as a day 1 download. Unfortunately, none of these downloads are organic growth from the store itself, and it mostly come from my audience with social media like YouTube, Discord, Twitter, my friends, and on TikTok. So no one's really discovering or finding the game in the store itself. But with that said, most of the reviews and in-app purchases came in around when the game released, and pretty much stagnated around the 24th. Until 2 more sales came through the other day. But in total, there were about 8 in-app purchases, resulting in about $20 in sales, which is after Google takes their 30% cut and taxes or something. But then it was the iOS App Store, which is what really became the lifeline of the whole game, reaching nearly 15,000 downloads and generating $194 worth of revenue. And all of this was thanks to organic growth, due to an actually useful app store with decent algorithms to recommend your game to people, bringing in millions of impressions, as you can see here. But before that, I set up pre-orders once again, like the Google Play Store, and this one received about 193 signups, which again helped with day 1 downloads. But looking at the download numbers, you can see a pretty consistent amount of downloads per day from the get-go because of these pre-orders, helping it kick off quite strongly. However, while this is good, it is eventually going to just drop off completely, like my previous game, any day now, as I don't think there's going to be much more steam left to keep this going, unless this video here helps it a lot. And regionally, it's spread out pretty well across most countries, with the US and the UK doing the biggest numbers. You can see there was a massive spike here in the US for a pretty funny and interesting reason that I will get into soon. But the main point of revenue, again, for the iOS store was the in-app purchases, selling 72 units, which made up that $194 after Apple took their 30% cut. And it's so genuinely heartwarming to see so many people wanting to purchase the full version of the game and really support its development, because the game is still very playable without it. And the game wouldn't even reach anyone or anywhere without the people who also downloaded and played it for free, which in turn helped with the ad revenue. And once again, like my last project, I chose to go with Unity ads because I had it set up before and it just worked. I didn't really see any need to change. This resulted in the game earning $82 just from ads and less than what it did from sales. But again, you can see it performing pretty consistently, just like the downloads from day 1, and then jumped up again around where those big American downloads started to spike. It started off fluctuating, making between $2 to $3 a day, and then jumping up to its big spike of about $6 or less. So the game's had a pretty good reception so far, at least on Google Play, all pretty much good things. But on iOS, I've received pretty much a lot more from all over the world. A lot of people are enjoying the challenge and recognizing the indie feel of it and the hard work that was put into making it. There's also those who found it very difficult and left 1-star reviews out of frustration from the game's difficulty, which is a win for me, and I think maybe helped draw people in who wanted a challenge. I'm not going to read them all out, but you'll be able to see them as I'm scrolling through here. Some people gave it a 5-star review to support the game and pointed out some issues they had. There were a few reviews I had to make a response to though. I tried my best to not respond to all the blatantly negative criticisms. One's about people finding it hard, because you just look like an idiot and an asshole and very overly defensive when you try and do that all the time. I chose to respond to people pointing out an issue, like they wanted to be able to rotate the screen because the notch was in the way of the on-screen buttons. And I pretty much just said that I will try and get an update out that night, which I did. It also became very apparent that people were just hitting play instead of doing the tutorial and getting lost on how to play the game. So I quickly adjusted the main menu to force you to play the tutorial and then uploaded a new update. My other responses were to do with ones that were just kind of factually an issue, I thought. There was one that was talking about how there are ads every minute or so, which I just responded saying that it's actually every 7 deaths and you can buy the full game to just remove the ads, because this is just how mobile games work and it's only a small solo project. But then there was one review that really got to me where I had to reply with a somewhat reasonable response because it was the first review on the American App Store giving it a 1-star review, which could heavily affect the downloads there, which is what led to this massive spike of downloads earlier. So someone left this review stating that because of their color blindness, they couldn't see the game, which is just kind of like a typical thing with Western countries. I don't think it's right to project your burdens onto the game with something I have no control over. So I responded saying, this is a small solo project. I don't have the tools or resources to help with the issue for them. It doesn't take into consideration any critique of the game itself or any of the care that was poured into making it or its game design. So I kindly asked them to just reconsider their review. While it's great that big studios like Naughty Dog have incredible accessibility options, and all games from these big companies should have accessibility options, I just can't deliver on this. And oh boy, did this have a massive knock-on effect, because the next day or so, several new 5-star reviews appeared supporting the game, and they were more or less in response to that 1-star review, which was very heartwarming but interesting from a social behavior point, watching others basically join together to respond just to boost the game. But regardless, the more reviews, the better. 1-star or 5-star, I want to hear about it because I just want to hear what people think about it. Because even a couple of reviews seem to give it this massive traction and certainly helped in the long run. And one of the main ways I tried to support the game was with one big final devlog about its development on release day. Which, to be honest, I don't think I've ever been more disappointed by a video I've ever released than this one, because it started off performing really well, and then it just kind of crashed and burned and got dropped by the algorithm altogether. So in that case, I usually try to avoid call to actions or save them till really late in the video. But hey, while you're here, it would be really great if you subscribed, make sure you leave a comment, check out the other devlog when you're done, and of course don't forget to download the game so I can keep this game alive on the app stores. But the point of this I'm trying to make is that it leads into the next section, which is marketing and advertising, or kind of the lack thereof. So I kind of always knew this game wasn't good enough or didn't have the relentless monetization models that mobile games normally have to even think about approaching a publisher. So I just stuck to the usual YouTube, Reddit, TikTok, Twitter model, because it's all you can really do when you've got no money. And let me tell you, getting traction on this game was very hard. The devlogs performed poorly, and I never really had a hit Reddit or Twitter post. But also capturing videos for the game was also difficult, and portraying how it played and what the mechanics were was very difficult as well. Capturing video was hard because it looked stuttery and more nauseating in the editor than it did on an actual mobile phone. So capturing clean footage was always a pain. Then presenting the hook and the game's mechanics were difficult because you couldn't really see how it played at a glance. And trying to say it's an endless runner with the challenging combat where you have to study the enemy's attacks and swipe in the correct direction with high, mid, low attacks got very wordy. And all of that just didn't quite hook. And then trying to find a target audience, because the game was designed with difficulty in mind and not for casual audiences, which is kind of contradictory with mobile gaming. So throwing it out into the internet didn't draw the eyes on it that it needed either. The game also had difficulty with its contrast in the background, making things kind of hard to see. My pixel art is very amateur and has lots of issues and errors that anyone with a keen eye can see. But regardless of it drawing attention or not, I didn't have the budget for advertising in general. I didn't have something worthy of a publisher, and I didn't want to compromise on the difficulty and the gameplay mechanics. So the game turned out how I wanted, and it still performed better than I had anticipated anyway, at least on iOS. And the fact that more than 10 people played it is good enough for me, and it's all just experience along my game development journey anyways. But the good news, even with thousands of downloads, it did click with some people, and quite a few people actually, because I can see the players on the leaderboards with high scores, and while I technically didn't make the game for everyone, it is connecting with people. And I could see people with low scores who clearly got frustrated and stopped playing, which is exactly what I also wanted. But then there was also the release date. I said to myself I wanted to release it in 2024, which I made a post about on social media to force myself and lock into getting it done and start the next year fresh. But the 20th of December was chosen because it was my last day of my real job before being on holiday, and because I thought since this is a mobile game, most people will be at home, they'll be with their families, they're having Christmas, there will be new devices, a lot of people will be sitting around bored on their phones, and maybe there would be more people on the App Store. If this was a Steam game, I probably wouldn't try this release date, but for mobile, I thought it might work. And it seems like it did, or it didn't have a negative effect at least. Then the game was out, and I could relax and enjoy the break. So it's a new year with new goals, and I already had a handful of projects and ideas that started their inception during Foot Joust's development. The main one being Rogue Pocket Quest, the roguelike that I started that helped blow up this channel, and the main reason people are subscribed right now. So I feel like I owe it to everyone to actually finish this game as well, which is now going to make it the main focus of the channel going forward. I've got some work to get done on the game before I'm able to turn it into more devlogs, so while working away on the game, you'll probably see at least one more fun or off-topic video, while I take a short break from content for a few months just to get everything back in line with how I want to grow this channel. Because if I'm aiming high, I want to get that game out this year and work towards my 10,000 subscribers goal. But at the same time, I feel like my channel has completely plateaued. I've hit this brick wall where I'm trying to find out how to reach the next level, and it just isn't happening yet. Videos are still getting a consistent amount of views, and growth is still happening, but I need a big jump to the next step, and I need some time to stop and figure this out for now. So thanks for watching and downloading the game if you have, and I'll see you guys soon when I'm ready. Maybe not that long. The next Rogue Pocket Quest devlog will be the start of a completely new chapter for this channel. There's some other stuff coming before that, but that devlog will be the next major landmark for this channel.